The Grand Council Hall of the Intergalactic Alliance glittered with silver light. Its walls were alive with shifting holograms, showing stars, battles, and histories of 1,000 alien civilizations. Each race was proud, ancient, and powerful, and among them stood the humans, young, fragile, and mocked. Captain Eric Vale sat at the edge of the long, circular table, surrounded by towering beings with wings, scales, and bioluminescent skin. His black Alliance uniform looked plain compared to the flowing robes and golden armor of the other delegates. He could feel their eyes on him, curious, dismissive, almost amused. "Humans," said Jericon, a tall reptilian commander with eyes like burning coals. "You live short lives. Your bodies are weak. You tire too quickly. What could your kind possibly contribute to the defense of the Alliance?" A ripple of laughter moved around the chamber. Some aliens clacked their mandibles in amusement, others hissed in agreement. Eric didn't laugh. He leaned forward. "We may be weaker than you. We may not live for centuries, but what we lack in strength, we make up for in endurance. Humans don't stop. We run. We adapt. We survive. That's our strength." The laughter grew louder. "Endurance," scoffed an insectoid ambassador named Krylix, whose people were known for lightning-fast reflexes. "Endurance means nothing when a single plasma strike ends the battle." Eric said nothing more. He had learned that words rarely changed minds. Only actions did. Later, in the docking bay of the Alliance station, Eric walked among his soldiers. They were not many, just a single unit of Earth's newly formed Marathon Corps. Men and women from deserts, mountains, frozen tundras, and endless plains. They wore no heavy armor, only light exosuits built for movement. Among them was Lieutenant Mara Jansen, a runner from the African savannas, whose ancestors had chased prey across miles of grassland until exhaustion brought it down. There was Sergeant Kai Nakamura, who had trained in the icy mountains of Japan, mastering discipline and focus. And there was Dr. Elias Quinn, who carried no weapon but had the stamina to march through disease-ridden jungles, never giving up on his patients. Each human carried the same fire, the ability to keep going when others fell. "Sir," Mara said quietly, walking beside Eric, "they don't believe in us." "They don't have to," Eric replied. His voice was calm but sharp. "One day, they'll see." That day came sooner than anyone expected. The Alliance fleet gathered at the edge of the Veros expanse, a stormy sector of space filled with shifting plasma currents. Beyond it lay the world of Threxos, a resource-rich planet under sudden siege by the Dravarian ancient enemy known for their brutal, relentless swarms. As the council debated, reports poured in. Alliance forces were collapsing, ships disabled, troops overrun. No army could withstand the Dravari assault. "We must retreat," shouted Krylix, his mandibles clacking nervously. "The storm fields are too unstable for reinforcements. The Dravari will consume everything in their path." "No retreat," growled Jericon, though his fiery eyes flickered with doubt. "We hold, or we die." The chamber erupted in chaos. Then Eric spoke. His voice cut through the noise. "Send us." The aliens turned, stunned. "Send your humans through the storm. Our bodies can endure the strain. We don't need heavy armor or massive weapons. Give us the mission others cannot finish." Laughter broke again, but it was weaker this time, edged with uncertainty. "You will burn in the plasma fields before you even reach Threxos," Krylix sneered. "Maybe," Eric admitted. His eyes were steady, unshaken, but maybe not. "Humans have crossed deserts with no water, climbed mountains with no air, run across continents without rest. Give us this chance, and we will show you what we are." The council hesitated. Pride and politics bound their tongues. But the desperate truth was clear. No one else was willing, at last. The High Chancellor, a luminous being of shifting light, gave a slow nod. Very well, Captain Vale. The humans may attempt the passage. But no, this failure means extinction. Not just for you, but for all who stand against the Dravari. Arik saluted. Then we won't fail. The Marathon Corps prepared in silence. Their mission: cross the deadly plasma storms in small, agile ships, reach Threxos, and hold the line until the larger fleets could regroup. No one expected them to succeed. Some didn't even expect them to survive the crossing. As Mara tightened her suit, she whispered, "Sir, what if this is the end?" Arik looked at her with steady eyes. "Then we run to the end, and we keep running until the universe remembers that humans never stop." The engines roared. The storm waited, and for the first time in history, the galaxy would see what it meant to be human. The human ships were small, sleek, fast, and built with stripped-down shields. Where other species demanded armor, humans chose speed. Where others depended on technology, humans relied on themselves. The Veros expanse filled the view before them. A rolling sea of fire stretched across the void. Massive arcs of plasma twisted between shattered asteroids, glowing like the anger of dying suns. Each flash could tear a cruiser apart in seconds. No fleet had ever survived the crossing. Inside the lead vessel Endeavor, Captain Arik Vale stood at the command chair. He did not look at the storm with fear. He looked at it the way his ancestors once looked at a mountain or a desert, not as an enemy, but as a challenge. "All units, report," he said into the comms. "Unit 2 ready," came Mara Jensen's voice, steady, despite the rising tension. "Unit 3, standing by," said Sergeant Kai Nakamura. "Unit 4, green," answered Dr. Elias Quinn. One by one, the Marathon soldiers confirmed. Their voices carried no arrogance, only determination. Arik gave the order, "Engage, engines. We run the storm." The ships darted forward like arrows into fire. At once the storm swallowed them. Plasma bolts streaked past, sizzling against weakened shields. Gravity eddies twisted their path, hurling ships in sudden spirals. Sensors screamed warnings. On the bridge of Endeavor, lights flickered. The air smelled of ozone. Crew members gritted their teeth as the hull groaned under invisible forces. "Shields at 40%. Called an ensign. Hold steady, Eric." "Barked adjust. Thrusters ride the currents. Don't fight them." The ship bucked like a wild beast, but the humans adapted. Where alien pilots would freeze or panic, human instincts kicked in. They leaned into chaos, not away from it. Mara's voice cut through the comms. "I see a current bearing 32 Mark East. If we ride it, we'll slingshot past the next surge." "Do it," Arik ordered. Her ship tilted, diving into the stream of glowing plasma. For a moment, it seemed the vessel would be torn apart, but then the current hurled it forward with incredible speed, clearing a deadly cluster of lightning arcs. Cheers erupted over the comms. "Good eyes, Lieutenant Arik," said a rare smile on his lips. Hours passed. The storm punished them endlessly. Shields flickered to nothing, forcing pilots to fly blind, trusting only instincts and each other's voices. Every jolt rattled bones. Every spark reminded them how close death was. But the humans did not falter. Kai Nakamura whispered to himself as he guided his ship through a field of spinning rocks. His ancestors had climbed mountains with bare hands, step after step, breath after breath. He carried that same spirit now. Dr. Quinn, though not a soldier by nature, gripped the controls with steady resolve. He thought of his patients, of endless nights in jungle hospitals where heat and disease tried to break him. This storm was no worse. He would not yield on Inside Endeavor. Eric watched his people with fierce pride. They were exhausted, their bodies aching from the strain, but their eyes burned with the one thing that set humanity apart, the refusal to stop. Suddenly, a scream of static tore through the comms. "Unit 5 hit. We're losing power." On the view screen, Arik saw it, A marathon ship spinning out of control, plasma flames licking across its hull. The pilot's panicked breaths echoed in the channel. "Stay with us," Arik shouted. "You can make it. Adjust stabilizers, run it out." But the pilot's voice cracked with fear. I can't." Before Arik could respond, Mara's calm voice broke in. "You can. Remember what you are. You're human. You've got more left than you think." The words steadied the pilot. With shaking hands, they corrected their course, dragging the battered ship back into formation. Sparks still trailed behind, but it flew true. Arik exhaled slowly. That was the human way. When strength failed, words, spirit, and stubborn hope kept them moving. The crossing stretched on. Hours turned into a full day. The storm gave no mercy. By the time the fleet neared the far edge, the humans were pale, dehydrated, and trembling with exhaustion. But then through the burning haze, they saw it. Threxos, the planet, glowed blue and green, a jewel surrounded by smoke. But around it swarmed the Dravari fleet, thousands of jagged ships, moving like a black tide. They were already in the skies, their armies descending onto the surface below. The sight sent silence through every human cockpit. The enemy was vast, endless. Elias Quinn whispered, "My God, they're everywhere." Eric's voice came firm, steady, unbroken. "Then we'll show them what everywhere really means. Humans don't stop at walls. We don't stop at storms. And we don't stop at enemies. Form up, we're going in." The marathon corps broke from the storm and dove toward the battle. Alien commanders, watching from afar, could only stare in shock. No one had ever crossed the expanse alive. Yet the humans had not only survived, they had arrived hungry for the fight. As their small ships streaked toward Threxos, the first wave of Dravari turned to intercept them. Red. The swarm came fast. Dravari fighters, black and jagged like shards of broken glass, poured from the void. Their engines shrieked, their weapons burned red. They flew in perfect unity, each ship part of a larger hive, all controlled by a single will. Against them, the human ships looked small, fragile, and unprepared. To the alien commanders watching from distant stations, the outcome seemed certain. But Eric Vale knew better. "Marathon corps," he said into the comms, his voice like steel. "We don't win by being stronger. We don't win by being faster. We win by outlasting them. Make them chase you until they break." The human ships spread apart, weaving into the swarm instead of charging head. The Dravari locked on immediately, confident in their overwhelming numbers. Targets surrounded, hissed a Dravari controller deep within their hive ship. "Destroy them." But the marathon soldiers didn't fight to destroy, they fought to endure. Mara Jansen's ship darted between two enemy fighters, letting their weapons scorch empty space. She twisted, rolled, then bolted toward the planet's atmosphere, dragging the enemy after her. Her heart pounded, sweat dripping down her temple, but she whispered to herself like she had on Earth, running endless miles under the burning sun. "One step more, one breath more, keep going." The Dravari followed relentlessly, but they weren't used to prey that never stopped running. Kai Nakamura took the opposite approach. He slowed his ship just enough to tempt the Dravari into overcommitting. Then, with a sudden burst, he pulled away, forcing them into the storm, currents still licking the expanse. Several enemy ships collided with the plasma streams, disintegrating instantly. Godkai didn't cheer. He simply adjusted his breath, steady and calm. His ancestors had walked stone paths through snow and storm, knowing patience beat haste. Dr. Elias Quinn wasn't a fighter at all, yet here he was, holding the line. He guided his ship low, using the planet's gravity to slingshot past enemy fire. Every alarm screamed at him, but his hands didn't shake. He remembered nights in fever tents, when disease tried to take dozens of lives at once. Back then, he couldn't run, but he could endure the long hours. Now, Endurance kept his ship alive. Inside Endeavor, Auric directed them like a conductor with an orchestra. Unit 2, draw them east good. Unit 3, hold steady. Unit 4, break at my mark now. The humans moved in fluid chaos, not like a machine, but like hunters. Each ship drew enemies farther, stretched their lines, and scattered their focus. The Dravari were designed for short, brutal strikes. They burned bright, fast, and furious, but the humans kept them running, forcing them into a contest of endurance, and endurance was where humanity thrived. On the Alliance flagship, far behind the storm, alien commanders watched the battle unfold in shock. Jericon, the reptilian warlord, leaned forward. His burning eyes narrowed. Impossible. They are not fighting. They are running. Yes, murmured the luminous High Chancellor, watching with fascination. But notice the Dravari are breaking formation. They are losing efficiency. Krylix, the insectoid ambassador, clacked his mandibles in disbelief. They cannot keep this up forever. No species can. The Chancellor's voice flickered with strange light. We shall see. Hours passed. The Dravari pressed harder, sending wave after wave. But for every surge, the humans stretched the fight longer. Their ships looked damaged, shields nearly gone, but still, they moved, zigzagging, drawing, refusing to fall. Inside her cockpit, Mara's breaths came ragged. Her muscles ached from tension. Every part of her body screamed to rest, but she remembered the long hunts of her ancestors, chasing prey across plains until it collapsed from exhaustion. That memory burned in her blood. She whispered into the Comb's voice, strained but steady. They're slowing. I can feel it. Eric nodded grimly from Endeavor. Good. Then we press harder. Make them run farther. And then it happened. One Dravari squadron broke away, their engines sputtering, their formation unraveling. Their will was strong but not infinite. They weren't used to a fight measured in endurance. The humans pounced. Mara spun around, cutting through the broken line. Kai flanked from above, striking with precise bursts. Quinn followed, finishing what they started. The first Dravari squadron collapsed. The aliens on the flagship gasped. The impossible was happening. Fragile humans had outlasted the swarm. But victory came at a cost. As the Marathon corps regrouped, alarms screamed across Eric's ship. A second Dravari wave approached, larger, stronger, reinforced by heavy cruisers. Mara's voice was heavy with exhaustion. Sir, we can't keep this pace forever. Our bodies can last, but the ships won't. Eric stared at the swarm growing. On his screen, he knew she was right. Their endurance had bought time, but it wouldn't last unless they found a way to turn the running into a strike. Then we changed the rules, he said quietly. Kai's calm voice cut in. What do you mean? Eric's eyes narrowed. His voice hardened with resolve. We don't just run from the storm. We become the storm. The soldiers went silent, understanding only one thing. The next move would decide everything. The black swarm of Dravari ships thickened ahead, blotting out the stars. Their heavy cruisers pushed forward, weapons glowing, confident that the fragile human fleet would finally shatter. Inside Endeavor, Captain Eric Vale stood tall, his eyes fixed on the storm behind them. The plasma fields of the Vero's expanse still boiled like an ocean of fire. To every other race, that storm was death. To him, it was a chance. He opened the comms. Marathon corps. We've been running. They think that's all we can do. But now, we make them run with us. Mara's tired voice crackled through the channel. Sir, what are you planning? Auric's tone was calm, certain. We don't fight them head-on. We lead them back into the storm. We turn the expanse into our battlefield. If they want to chase us, let them chase us through hell. A heavy silence followed. Then Kai Nakamura spoke, his voice low but steady. You're saying we draw them into the storm currents? Exactly, Eric replied. We know how to endure. They don't. They'll burn out before we do. Dr. Elias Quinn exhaled slowly. It's madness. Yes, Eric said. His eyes hardened. But it's human madness. And it's the only way. The Marathon Corps turned as one, breaking from the swarm and diving back toward the raging plasma fields. The Dravari shrieked in pursuit. To them, the humans looked desperate, retreating into certain death. Laughter hissed through their hive means. Cornered them in the fire, a Dravari controller ordered. Let them burn. But the humans weren't cornered. They were baiting the trap. The first plasma arcs cracked across the void, blinding flashes that split the dark. Human ships darted between them, rolling and weaving with impossible precision. Each pilot trusted not just their instruments, but their instincts, their breath, their endurance. Mara's ship skimmed the edge of a glowing current. Her heart hammered, her body screamed to rest, but she pushed harder. One more step, one more mile. She remembered running endless distances across Earth's plains, chasing shadows in the heat. This was no different only. The shadows were made of metal and teeth. The Dravari followed, their black ships plunging into the storm. At first, they pressed confidently, weapons blazing. But as the plasma currents twisted, their perfect formation broke. Kai's calm voice cut across comms. They're losing cohesion. Good, Eric answered. Keep them chasing. Make them sweat. Hours dragged on. The storm punished both sides without mercy. Shields flickered, alarms blared, metal screamed, but the difference became clear. The humans adapted. They paced themselves, flying with patience, conserving every movement, like long-distance runners, measuring each breath. The Dravari, built for short, brutal bursts, pushed too hard. Their ships overheated. Their pilots grew erratic, breaking formation more and more. Dr. Quinn, though exhausted, couldn't help but marvel. It's working. By God, it's actually working. On the Alliance flagship far behind, alien commanders watched in disbelief. They should be dead, Krylex hissed, mandibles clattering. No one survives inside that storm. Jerichon's burning eyes narrowed. No one except humans, it seems. The High Chancellor's glowing form pulsed brighter. Do you see now? They do not win with strength. They win with persistence. They turn weakness into endurance, and endurance into power. The battle shifted. One by one, Dravari squadrons faltered. Some ships slammed into plasma arcs, exploding in fire. Others strayed too far. Their engines burned out, leaving them helpless in the storm. The humans pressed their strengths. Relentless dance, never fully striking, never fully stopping. Always moving, always forcing the enemy to run farther. Finally, Mara's voice broke through the comms. Her tone was ragged but fierce. Sir, their numbers are thinning. We can break them. Eric's eyes hardened. Then let's end it. All units, converge on the center swarm. Hit them when they stumble. The Marathon Corps shifted from running to striking. Mara dived low, pulling two Dravari fighters into a plasma current that tore them apart. Kai surged upward, unleashing precise bursts into exposed engines. Quinn, steady, despite exhaustion, finished crippled ships with sharp surgical strikes, and Erica's endeavor cut straight through the Dravari heart, guns blazing, tearing holes in their scattered lines. The humans weren't just enduring anymore, they were winning. But victory was never simple. As the Dravari lines collapsed, a new shadow loomed. The hive mind itself had shifted. From the depths of the swarm, a massive vessel emerged, the Dravari dreadnought. Its size dwarfed. The Dravari dreadnought moved like a black mountain across the storm. Its hull was jagged and alive, feeding off the hive's collective will. Plasma bolts arced around it, but the ship did not waver. It was too vast, too strong, inside Endeavor. Captain Eric Vale studied it, in silence. His crew looked at him, waiting for orders. Fear hung heavy in the air. Lieutenant Mara Jensen broke the quiet. Sir, that thing isn't a ship. It's a nightmare. Sergeant Kai Nakamura's voice was calm, though his eyes were sharp. We can't win a head-on fight. One strike from its cannons will end us. Dr. Elias Quinn gripped the edge of his console. His face was pale, but his voice carried a strange steadiness. Then we don't fight it like a warship. We fight it like a marathon. Eric's gaze lifted, fire burning in his eyes. Exactly. This is the last mile. We've dragged them through the storm, made them chase us until they bled. Now we drag this monster into the same race. The dreadnought's first cannon fired. A beam of molten energy sliced through the storm, lighting the void like a false sunrise. The Endeavor rolled hard, the blast passing so close that the hull blistered with heat. Shields down to 15%. A crewman shouted, "Arik didn't flinch. Stay with it. Make it work for every shot." The Marathon Corps spread out, weaving around the dreadnought. Their small ships buzzed like wasps around a giant beast, darting in and out, striking only when safe. The Dravari roared through the hive mind, "You cannot endure. You will fall." But the humans ignored the words. They had heard those same taunts for centuries. "You're too weak. You're too slow. You can't survive." And always, humanity had kept going anyway. Mara led the first pass. Her ship darted low, hugging a plasma current. Enemy fire rained down, but she moved like a runner through shifting shadows. Each turn, measured each breath steady. At the last moment, she twisted upward, releasing a volley at the dreadnought's sensor arrays. Sparks exploded across its black skin. "Hit confirmed," she called out, though her voice trembled with exhaustion. Kai followed next, soaring high above. He waited, patient, calm as always. When the dreadnought shifted its cannons toward Mara, he dove, firing into its exposed flanks. His strikes were not strong enough to pierce, but they forced the monster to turn, wasting precious energy. Dr. Quinn came last. He wasn't as skilled, but he was steady. His shots weren't perfect, but they kept the pressure constant, forcing the dreadnought to chase 3 targets at once. And all the while, Eric drove Endeavor straight at its core, closing distance inch by inch. The battle dragged on. Minutes became hours. The humans' bodies screamed for rest. Sweat soaked their uniforms, muscles ached from endless strain, and every heartbeat felt heavier than the last. But they did not stop. Mara whispered through cracked lips, "One more pass. One more mile." Kai's calm breath carried across the channel. "Steady. Focus. Keep the pace." Elias Quinn laughed once, softly, despite himself. "I used to think marathons were madness. Now I understand. Madness keeps us alive." Arik's voice cut through them all, sharp and clear. "We finish this together." The dreadnought grew desperate. Its weapons blazed without rhythm, firing wildly at the darting humans. Each miss strained its reserves. Each failed strike strained its hive-link, and then that last it faltered. A section of its armor cracked under stress, glowing red from overheating. The humans saw it at the same time. "There," Mara shouted. "Starboard side weak point exposed." Eric's eyes narrowed. "All units, converge. This is our finish line." The Marathon Corps poured everything into that moment. Mara dove first, her engines screaming as she unleashed her last missiles into the breach. The explosion ripped the armor wider. Kai followed, precise and deadly. His bursts pierced deeper, cutting into the core beneath. Quinn, exhausted beyond reason, gave the final push, riding a plasma current into the breach and unloading every weapon he had. His ship shook violently, but he refused to stop. Finally, Arik drove the Endeavor straight at the glowing wound. "Brace," he roared, firing the ship's heavy cannons at point-blank range. The blasts ripped through the breach. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the dreadnought shuddered. A roar echoed across the hive mind, furious and broken. And then the giant began to fall. The explosion lit the storm like dawn. Breaking across a dark world, the dreadnought tore apart from the inside, flames spilling out in every direction. Fighters scattered, their hive-link collapsing without the Leviathan's will to guide them. The humans pulled back, battered and trembling, watching the impossible. The beast was dead. Mara gasped for air, laughing through tears. We did it. We actually did it. Kai closed his eyes for a brief second, whispering, "The last mile. Complete." Dr. Quinn leaned back in his seat, body shaking with relief. Madness and endurance. Who would have thought? On Endeavor's bridge, Eric Vale stood tall, despite the exhaustion pulling at his bones. His voice carried across. The comes, steady and proud. Marathon cores. Mission complete. Humanity endures. Far away, the Alliance fleet had watched it all. Silence filled their halls as the impossible burned across the stars. The High Chancellor's glowing form flickered with awe. They said, humans could not run far. Jerichon's fiery eyes narrowed, his voice almost reverent, and yet they never stopped. But even in victory, the war was not over. The Dravari swarm was broken here, but not destroyed. The galaxy still trembled with danger, and humanity had just painted a target on its back, asterisk. The wreckage of the Dravari dreadnought still burned in the storm when the humans returned. Their ships limped out of the expanse, scarred and battered, but alive. On the viewing decks of the Alliance flagship, silence fell. Hundreds of alien eyes glowing, scaled, faceted, feathered watched the fragile human fleet emerged from the fire. No one had expected them to survive. No one had expected them to win. The silence broke with a single voice. The High Chancellor's luminous form pulsed bright, radiating awe. They endured the storm. They broke the swarm. Humanity has saved us all. Some species cheered. Others hissed in disbelief. Jerichon, the reptilian warlord, slammed a clawed fist against the table. This cannot be. The humans are too young, too weak. They should not hold such power. Krylex, the insectoid ambassador, clacked his mandibles nervously. Do you not see? If they can outlast the Dravari, what will they do to us when they rise higher? A race that never stops, that is a danger greater than any enemy. The council chamber divided instantly, half in awe, half in fear. Meanwhile, aboard the Endeavor, Captain Arikvale and his soldiers floated in silence. Exhaustion weighed on them like lead. Their bodies ached, their eyes burned, but in their hearts a quiet fire glowed. Lieutenant Mara Jansen leaned against her seat, barely able to keep her head up. Did we really do it? Sergeant Kai Nok voice was calm, almost meditative. The dreadnought is gone. The swarm is broken. The answer is yes. Dr. Elias Quinn chuckled wearily. Then maybe, just maybe, humans have earned a place here. Arik didn't speak. He stared at the stars, his jaw tight. He knew victories carried shadows, and he could already feel one forming. The council summoned him within hours. Arik entered the grand hall, his uniform still scorched, his body still aching. The marathon. Chorus stood behind him, silent and proud. The Chancellor's voice filled the chamber. Captain Eric Vale, humanity has done the impossible. The galaxy owes you a debt that cannot be measured. Mara's eyes shone at the words. Kai bowed respectfully. Even Quinn's tired face lit up with quiet pride. But then Jerichon rose, towering over them all. His voice boomed with fury. Do not be blinded by their victory. These humans are dangerous. They endured what none of us could. They defied odds that should have killed them. If they can outlast the Dravari, they can outlast any of us. Today they save us. Tomorrow they will dominate us. Whispers spread through the chamber. Some nodded in fear. Others looked uncertain. Arik stepped forward, his voice sharp but steady. We didn't fight for domination. We fought because the galaxy was burning. We fought because no one else would. If that makes us dangerous, then perhaps danger is what you needed. The words cut through the hall like a blade. Some delegates hissed. Others lowered their heads in shame. The Chancellor raised a glowing hand. Enough. The truth is clear. Humanity has proven itself. But so has the danger. Trust must be earned. That night, whispers filled the Alliance station. Secret councils gathered. Messages traveled in shadows. Not everyone wanted humans to rise. On the Endeavor, Mara walked the quiet corridors, sensing the shift in the air. Soldiers greeted her with weary smiles, but she felt something else unease, as if eyes were watching from the dark. She found Eric alone on the observation deck, staring out at the drifting wreckage of the battle. "They're afraid of us," she said softly. Eric didn't turn. "They should be." Mara frowned. "Do you mean that?" He finally looked at her, his eyes heavy with both pride and sorrow. "They saw what we are. They saw that we don't stop. Some will admire us, some will fear us, and some will try to break us." The attempt came sooner than expected. While the Marathon Corps rested, alarms suddenly blared through the Endeavor. Doors locked, power cut. Shadows moved in the halls. "Arik," snapped to alert, grabbing his sidearm. "All units, report." Kai's voice came steady through the comms. "Intruders on board. Not Dravari. Alliance strike teams." Mara cursed. "They're trying to erase us before we grow stronger." Dr. Quinn's voice was grim. "So much for gratitude." The stars outside the Endeavor were cold and distant, but inside the ship, the air burned with tension. Captain Eric Vale had called an emergency meeting of the Marathon Corps. Mara Jansen, Kai Nakamura, and Dr. Elias Quinn gathered in the small conference room, exhaustion etched into every line of their faces. "I've intercepted Alliance comms," Arik began, voice low and urgent. "A faction within the council is planning to hand us over to the Dravari." Mara's eyes went wide. "Hand us over? After everything we've done, after we just destroyed the dreadnought?" Eric nodded grimly. "They see humanity as too dangerous. They don't trust our endurance, our persistence, our will. They think if we survive any longer, we will dominate them. So they're making a deal." Kai's expression was calm but cold. "Peace at our expense. Typical politics. They always choose safety over truth." Dr. Quinn ran a hand through his hair. "We fought the Dravari to protect the galaxy, and now we're the ones they want to sell." Arik clenched his fists. "Exactly. And we don't have much time. The transport ships are scheduled to move us within the next cycle. If we wait, it will be too late." The Marathon Corps worked quickly. Every system, every passageway, every sensor was scanned. They could not allow themselves to be trapped. Mara paced the room. "So what do? We can't fight the entire Alliance fleet alone." Eric's eyes hardened. "We won't fight them. Not like the Dravari. We'll use what humans do best. Endurance, patience, and strategy. We'll run, but not just for survival. We'll outsmart them." Kai's voice was sharp. "Run against the storm, again. I like it. Only this time, the storm is the Alliance itself." Quinn shook his head with a wry smile. "We've always been underestimated. Looks like history is consistent." The first move was subtle. Under the cover of routine maintenance, the Marathon Corps slipped out of the docking bays. Sensors and cameras were temporarily jammed, lights dimmed, and every step measured for speed and silence. Mara led the way, her instincts honed from years of long-distance discipline. Each corridor felt like a finish line. Each door she passed was a checkpoint. Kai's calm presence kept the team steady, guiding them through security measures and patrol drones. He moved like water through stone smooth, efficient, unstoppable. Quinn, though slower, followed, his endurance carrying him past exhaustion. He reminded himself of nights in fever tents, when sleep was impossible but patience depended on him. That same determination kept him moving now. Eric, last in line, watched the corridors carefully. Every shadow could hide a traitor, every sound could signal capture. But he had led his team through storms, battles, and betrayals before. This was another mile in the race. The first Alliance strike team appeared. Armed, armored, confident. Their weapons glinted in the fluorescent light. Mara's voice whispered over comes. Brace. The humans didn't panic. They didn't charge. They ran, weaving and dodging, turning the narrow corridors into a labyrinth only they could navigate. The strike team fired, but they were too slow, too rigid. Human reflexes and endurance outpaced every step, every shot. One by one, the intruders fell behind, confused, frustrated. Exhaustion hit them harder than any wound. Kai smirked. Patience wins races. Arik nodded. And we've run farther than any of them imagined. Finally, they reached the ship's hangar. The transport ships were ready, waiting, guarded by the very fleet that called them heroes hours ago. Eric's eyes scanned the scene. Hundreds of soldiers, but the hangar was long and narrow. The Marathon Corps' strategy was clear: endurance plus speed. One precise sprint could create chaos enough to escape. Mara clenched her fists. This is it. One last mile. Eric gave a sharp nod. Then run like humans always do, past fear, past limits, past expectation. The sprint began. Explosions rocked the hangar as alarms blared. Mara surged forward first, her ship weaving through pillars, dodging lasers, dragging the soldiers into mistakes. Kai followed, precise and calculated, cutting off reinforcements with clever maneuvers. Quinn lagged slightly, but used every ounce of stamina to keep pace, covering their rear. Eric guided Endeavor into the center, engines screaming. They weren't just running, they were turning the hall into a trap. Every move forced the enemy to chase, exposing themselves to collisions and hazards. The strike teams faltered. Some were caught in cargo lifts, others collided with stalled ships. Panic spread faster than strategy could recover. Finally, the Marathon Corps reached the waiting transport ships. The pilots opened the bays, and the humans climbed aboard, breathing hard, bodies trembling, but eyes fierce. Eric's voice cut through. The comes. Set course for the expanse. We're not stopping for any one lie or enemy. Mara laughed through her exhaustion, a wild, triumphant sound. They thought they could sell us out. They didn't account for human endurance. Kai's calm voice added, nor our will to survive. Quinn, finally catching his breath, smiled. We didn't just outrun the Dravari, we outran betrayal itself. Eric looked out the viewport at the stars. The galaxy was full of enemies, shadows, and traitors, but humanity had shown that no matter the storm, no matter the lies, no one could stop them from running the last mile, and this race was far from over. The stars burned with fire and plasma. The Dravari had not forgotten the dreadnought's destruction. From the void, a new swarm approached, faster, sharper, more relentless. And worse, some factions of the Alliance had followed their secret orders, ready to strike the Marathon Corps while the humans were vulnerable. Captain Eric Vale stood on the bridge of Endeavor, eyes scanning the incoming storm. Every sensor screamed, danger. Every instinct told him this was the moment when survival would become legend or death. Mara Jansen leaned over the console, her face smeared with sweat and streaked with soot. They're everywhere, sir. It's a trap. Eric nodded, jaw tight. Then we run in. We turn the running into the fight. Kai Nakamura's calm voice cut in. We know endurance better than any species. Let them chase us. Let them make mistakes. Dr. Elias Quinn sighed, exhaustion heavy on his body. I think this is the last mile, sir. The last mile, ever. Eric's eyes burned with determination. No, this is just another mile. Humans don't stop running. Not now, not ever. The Endeavor surged forward. Mara led the first wave, her small fighter darting between the Dravari swarm. The aliens fired everything, but every shot was anticipated, every movement calculated. The Marathon Corps used the narrow asteroid belts and plasma storms like a racetrack, forcing the swarm into collisions and chaos. Kai followed, striking from unexpected angles, dragging Alliance traders into the fight as well. Each human ship moved like a living organism, coordinated, patient, relentless. Quinn stayed at the rear, keeping wounded ships alive and relaying tactical information. His calm endurance inspired others. Even ships crippled by battle continued to move, guided by human will. The trap deepened. The Dravari dreadnought had been replaced by a new weapon, a massive command cruiser, its hull dark and jagged, glowing with energy. It unleashed volleys of plasma so intense that small fleets crumpled under the barrage. Mara's voice was tight but fearless. "We can't outgun it." Arik didn't hesitate. "Then we outlast it. Move. Force it to chase us through the storm. Don't stop. Make it burn out." The human fleet did not panic. They zigzagged through asteroid chains, skimming plasma storms, weaving like runners through a canyon. The dreadnought and its fleet followed relentlessly, confident in their strength. But confidence was the human enemy. Hours passed. Exhaustion threatened to consume them all. Mara's ship thrummed with fatigue, her hands shaking as she guided it through another narrow pass. Kai's voice remained steady, guiding the units like a lighthouse in chaos. Quinn's body ached beyond reason, but he refused to stop, patching broken ships mid-flight, shouting encouragements. Even Eric felt the edge of collapse, but he held the line, his mind focused not on fear or fatigue, but on the simple truth that had carried humans through millennia. Endurance beats everything. And then the moment came. The Dravari cruiser, exhausted, faltering, exposed a vulnerability. Its weapons had overheated, systems overloaded. The Alliance traders, witnessing this, panicked. The humans running had forced them into chaos. Arik saw the opening. All units, converge, strike together. One coordinated push. Mara dove first, missiles screaming into the cruiser's weak points. Kai followed, precise and deadly. Quinn fired his last energy reserves into the gaps, sacrificing his shields to keep the path clear. The humans struck as one, a single, unstoppable wave. The cruiser shuddered, hull rupturing, explosions ripping across its surface. The Dravari fleet faltered, their dreadnoughts unable to recover without central coordination. The remaining Alliance forces froze, realizing they had misjudged humanity completely. The swarm collapsed. The traders retreated. The Marathon Corps had not only survived, they had won. Breathing hard, bodies trembling, the humans regrouped. The fleet was battered, but intact. Victory was theirs, not through strength alone, but through courage, endurance, and unity. Mara's voice broke, laughing and crying at the same time. We did it. Again. Kai smiled faintly. They thought endurance was weakness. They were wrong. Quinn leaned back, exhausted but alive. Humans always run farther than they believe. Eric stood at the bridge viewport, staring at the shattered enemy ships drifting in silence. He turned to his crew, voice steady and proud. Marathon Corps, we ran farther, held